Hello, I'm Dr. David Rosensweet, and you've reached I Wonder Doctor Live, our second segment every Thursday. This one's at 2 o'clock, and it's all about the emotions, our minds, our life, and really, how did I, as a medical doctor, ever get into this? Well, for two reasons. I got very interested at a very early age about what's illness about, what's causing it, and one of the things I learned early on is that it was a dysfunctional response to stress, which is about as dismantling as anything that goes on to our physical bodies. Let me give you an example. Whenever you think there's a saber-toothed tiger about to jump in the room or whatever is stressful to you, your body flips a switch and mounts a tremendous amount of internal chemistry to mobilize us for fight or flight. And oh my God, as I've mentioned before, this is so powerful that moms have been known to lift cars up in the air. And oh my goodness, it takes some powerful hormones and neurotransmitters to be at the vanguard of this escalation of powers. And if you keep doing that too many times a day, a week, a year, well, when you're young, a lot of young people don't feel it. They just feel as strong, as energetic as ever. But by the time you're getting into your late 20s and 30s, or 40s, or 50s, or 60s, people are starting to feel it. And sometimes it just manifests as increased fatigue, trouble sleeping, irritable mood. We have a question come in on the next segment, in the menopause segment, about a woman who's gotten more irritable in her early 40s. Well, there's biology to this. There's depleted happiness chemicals. There's depleted energy chemicals. And that's how people get more tired and less energetic and more moody over time, because these hormones that are capable of mobilizing for fight or flight, they deplete over time if you overuse them. So you don't have as many of them as you did when you're in your 20s and your teens. So you see less energy and less mood and less sleep, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So because I'm a physician, that one of my main intentions in this lifetime is to do everything I can in this lifetime to heal my own self. And then this is my profession. This is what I've spent so much of my adult life doing, is assisting others with this. It is essential that we get good at the elephant in most people's rooms as far as what's causing illness and breakdown, is get good at stress. Not to disappear the stress, that's nice, but it's not doable in this lifetime for most of us. But to get really good on how we respond to it. And if we do have to run from a saber-toothed tiger, well, fantastic. But if we don't, if we're just worrying constantly and upset over nothing and creating upset after upset after upset, that's what we want to get better at. Especially if we want to stay well and in a good mood and happy and have fun. That's how I got into all of this. So, I now want to jump onto a story that I heard this week, and when I was consulting with one of my patients that I've worked with a long time. He's a young man in his 40s. He's married. They're halfway through a pregnancy, first one. And he's a very socially involved, active young man, and he belongs to the International Kiwanis Club, and he was at a meeting. And during their social hour, a visitor from a foreign country got into a discussion with him, and as discussions goes, I'm going to take you to the heart of that discussion, was this foreign gentleman's opinion that American men are so repressed. And I was curious about what he meant by repression, and there's lots of ways to interpret that, but what this foreign gentleman was referring to is that, for example, when he travels around the world, and he has sexual encounters wherever he goes. He has women in different ports, for example. And interestingly enough, my patient who, and this happens to a lot of men, is women, some women in pregnancy, when for one thing the relationship's a little challenged, and for another thing they're turning inwards to the baby and all that entails, they get less intimate and less affectionate. Now there's reasons for that, because not every pregnancy goes in that direction. You can get to have some of the most spectacular intimacy and love that you ever have during pregnancy. But it's common because, you know, as I was talking to my daughter earlier, I wasn't born having read the Book of Love, as Peter Gabriel's song goes. How many of you were? Was your schooling in how to be a loving person? Did it begin very early in your life? And you learned a lot about it? And can you actually write your own book about it because you know so much about it? No, and neither could I. And so there's reasons why these intimacies don't go where we want them to do and where we can dream of them and long for them. And my patient, going back to the Kiwanis Club in his discussion with this foreign gentleman, was starting to not feel good about himself and asking himself the question, yeah, well, men have done this forever, and is this okay? And so that's where I picked it up. And for one thing, I wanted to work with his choice of words because I knew this patient quite well. I'm not going to call that, I said, I don't call this repression. I call this, you're a man who's trying to turn the tide of how men and women relate. You are aware that to step outside of a marriage, to have an intimate experience, can be the very, very worst thing you can possibly do to a relationship. And so you don't know what to do, you don't know how to create the love and intimacy within your marriage, but you don't want to revert to something that you know or sense will destroy the marriage. At least the love and trust and intimacy part. Very, very few relationships in my experience, and I've been privy to a lot of people's stories being a doctor, ever recover from a breach of intimacy within a marital or fully committed relationship. People endure, they move on, but is the heart openable again? Ever? Is the trust, the violation to trust, is so huge that there's very few relationships that actually recover from a breach of intimacy in a committed relationship. So he knows that, he suspects that, and so he's working so hard to not make those choices, and as I put it to him, hey, listen, you're corralling your own base desires to go out and have an experience, to go outside the marriage, and you're being successful in reining those in, and yet you're caught in a middle zone because you didn't have this miraculous training and skill level in the world of how do I build love and intimacy. And so you're caught in a liminal zone, the space in between, and so many men on this planet are. And yet the only thing that ever works in my own life and in everyone that I've ever heard about this is you learn how to become more loving. My son and I had a discussion on this in last week's segment of I Wonder Doctor. And it's all within our reach, and it isn't even rocket science. You learn what love is. You learn how to be caring, and what a pleasure it is to be caring about somebody else. Oh my goodness. In my life, to my utter surprise, because I didn't know this as a young man, that to care about someone else is supreme. Yes, it's very nice when I'm being loved and people are being kind to me, and yes, I like it. I know I'm being kind of funny about that, but what I learned about myself that was another shock to me is that what feels absolutely best to me is when I see someone else, like my beloved. I see her. I see her deeply. That means I have space and acceptance for whatever mood she's in. Am I perfect at that? No, but I've been learning a lot. That means if I can see her and I'm willing to see her, and I have acceptance for whatever mood she's in, she feels safer. Love. Here's something that a mentor taught me about love. It's comprised of specific actions that have an intention of having an outcome. Thank you, Lazarus. And the action is, I'm here to reduce the fear of my beloved and increase the security. And what's the outcome? Reducing the fear of your partner, increasing the security, it increases love. And I'm here to communicate in a safe and as kind as way as possible, but to communicate. Communication increases love and it increases trust. I'm here to understand and create trust with my partner. With everybody, really, but especially with an intimate partner. What does that mean? Number one, I'm trustworthy. So let's go back to this other lover situation. It just simply doesn't work. If you want to create love, then you have to be trustworthy. That means you've got to live in a trustworthy way because everybody knows everything, which means some people think that they can be having an affair and it's not felt within their marriage. No, everybody knows everything. Sometimes the partner suppresses their uncomfortableness. They feel something's not quite right because they don't want to face it, but everybody deep down knows everything. So you have to be trustworthy. It means you don't violate the trust of your partner. And you're trusting. You're willing to open up the constriction and the fears that we often have about trusting another individual. And these are some of the qualities of what love actually is. It's a verb, as my son was saying. It's actions we take to produce a result. And really what the Kiwanis Club member from a foreign country was saying, and I'm not saying that this represents the belief of every foreigner, my God, some of the most wonderful people I've ever met aren't from the United States, you know. But it just happened to be the story I'm telling you. What he was ultimately saying is there's a world of sexual pleasure out there that could be yours. And his wife at home apparently either didn't know about it or had given up completely. And this is what was being told and implied to my patient. Well, let's talk about sexual love. I mean, there are many people who have experienced the ultimate pleasures of sexual union. And here's some of the things that I've learned and I find true for myself. You're all going to find what's true for you, but I certainly have found it true for myself and every patient I've ever talked to about the subject, is we live in a funnel, so to speak. And again, thank you, Lazarus, for this. And the funnel is, at the top of the funnel represents the whole earth, really the whole universe, but let's confine it to the earth. We're in relationship with everyone and everything and every rock and every tree on this planet. That's a big subject. I'm not going to go there, but as we go further down into the funnel, we're in relationship with everyone in the city that we live in, and everyone in the block that we reside in, and all of our relatives and all of our friends. As you get closer down in the funnel, it gets more and more close in important relationships, everyone at work. But at the final phase of the funnel, only 2 people can go there. And that's a relationship that's very unique. It's a highly committed relationship, and it's for most human beings, it is the only venue in which true sexual union can take place. Only 2 people fit in there. You'll evaluate this for yourself. And now I'm going to go back to the main topic. Isn't it makes the most common sense and I find it certainly to be true, that the joy, the beauty, the amazingness of the sexual union is all about love. And the more love in a relationship, the stronger, richer, deeper, more rewarding, more profound the sexual aspect of it is. So if you want to have a great sex life, understand and learn love and learn how to become loving. Oh, that was something I didn't know when I was younger. I thought, well, I want to meet my special soulmate who's going to be loving to me. In fact, the criteria that I wanted was they have to love me perfectly all the time. And I didn't pause for decades of my life to ask the question, well, am I loving every moment of the time? Am I perfect loving? Well, the older I got and the more failures I had, the more I started to realize that, hey, let's start with myself here. As Michael Jackson said in that amazing song, The Man in the Mirror. Oh my goodness, what an amazing song. And the lyrics of that song is, we learn how to be loving, beginning with ourselves. We learn how to be accepting to the hurt parts of ourselves, and that gives us room to be accepting to the hurt parts and the imperfect parts of our intimate partners, of everybody, really. And then you do that, and they feel safer. And you do what love is. Love is a verb. Love is an action we take to produce a consequence, an outcome called love. We're loving to produce love. And then if you're really, the better you get at being loving, the better ultimately the intimate contact and the sexual contact becomes. Oh yeah. And so once again, the checklist, so to speak, is, can I be trustworthy? So to go back to my patient, what was so confusing for my patient, but he's living it properly, is he was being told that he could violate being trustworthy to his own wife. And what he was doing was efforting to not make mistakes like that, because that's a love killer, totally. So the list goes on as we learn how to be loving. We are trustworthy, and we learn how to trust. We communicate. We reduce the fear of our partner, and we increase the security. And what does that lead to? That ultimate translates to those moments of special intimacy that we can experience, and they're all based on love. So I wanted to acknowledge my patient that, you know, in actuality, he was trying to become one more man who was transitioning from, I don't know exactly what to do to create love, but I don't want to just follow every desire that can damage and kill the love relationship with my wife. And so I wanted to tell him, and that doesn't mean it automatically opens the door to the amount of love and intimacy that is possible for us, but this is where the great work is. This is the great work, is how to I become loving. And the irony is, and this has been just a spectacular discovery for me over the course of my life, is it's the loving that is so rewarding to me. It's seeing the beauty and the humanness and the ups and the downs and the preciousness. It's not, one isn't, quote, showered with that. One develops your own ability to see and experience the beauty of all creation, and then the ones that are most up close and personal to us. So, again, I was so happy in acknowledging to my patient that he was making choices that were in the right direction, that ultimately are going to open up this world of love and intimacy that is his vision, that is his dream. So, big topic. It relates so profoundly to health And that's what I want to take it back to, because what breeds health? Well, the good stuff. Let's start with that. Life itself is so beautiful, and it's so nurturing, and it's so loaded with beauty and beautiful people and trees and flowers and dirt and sky, and there's just so much to it. In order to do that, it's imperative that we leave the world of internal distraction and need and desire, and I gotta have this, and I want this, and I'm mad at you, and I'm worried about this. We have to heal those to the point where we're able to be present and merely see what we're involved in. And ultimately, love and life is so good for health. Want to do something good for health? Join life, see life, be life, live life. We are living life. So why is that? Because as a physician, I've come to see in myself, and as a physician to so many patients over a long period of time, that our health declines, our energy, our mood, our joy, our satisfaction declines, because if we're running an internal biology of stress response where we're putting out extra thyroid hormone, extra adrenal hormones, extra ovarian or testicular hormones, because we've recruited those powerful biochemicals not for their basic functions, but for the ability to fight or flee, and we keep doing that day after day after day, we wind up tired, grouchy, unfulfilled, and pessimistic. Whereas if we learn how to have a functional response to the stress in our life, that means we know how to roll with it. We accept it. We accept ourselves in the midst of it. And we make good choices. My goodness, we get to join life more and more and more. We have more room and space for the people in our life and for the beauty of our life. And we have more contact with the deepest parts and recesses of our very own being, our soul, where we're connected to the divine. So there's some medicine for you. Well, it's practical medicine because it's the bottom line of all medicine. So as one of my mentors said, all illness and all healing are issues of spirituality. And spirituality is a big tent here. Happiness, love, life. So yes, Dr. Rosensweet is seemingly wandered off into the periphery, but it's so core to the healing and health and vitality of all of us that I wanted to go on that journey and take it down to a practical young man who was very stressed in that Kiwanis Club meeting, feeling like, gosh, he's missing out on so much. Yet in his heart, his internal compass was taking him towards right choice, choice of integrity, choice that builds trust with his wife. So it was a relief to him to hear me acknowledge that, good going. This is one of the important steps that life throws our way to keep us growing so that we can heal and experience love and intimacy, and at times some of the most amazing intimate experience that's possible because it's based on love. So there's Dr. Rosensweet and I Wonder Doctor. Today on Thursday, and every Thursday we're here, and we're here to answer your questions. Call in 888-502-8886 or email us questions through I Wonder Doctor, Ask the Doc. And this is the time I love to address this because it's at the core of medicine and healing. Best wishes to you all.